You are a creator. You create your career, your business. You create a family. You create your future. On the Results Driven Life by Design broadcast, get ready to hear from people from all walks of life and how they overcame the odds to create a life led by purpose and vision. Here's your host, Kia Arian.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's broadcast. I always begin by reminding you that your skills, your experiences, and your talents have been given to you for a reason. No one else has that unique combination, and no one else has your voice. You have a message that the world needs to hear. And so as you listen to today's show, I invite you to a greater vision for your life that resonates beyond what you do, but why you do it. So let's get inspired. On today's show, I am very pleased to welcome my friend and colleague, Tom Ruwitch. Tom is a marketing expert and content strategist and founder and CEO of Story Power Marketing. Through his agency, he helps businesses attract leads, stay engaged, generate more sales. He has also created custom software to help people use technology to stay connected, and more recently, to use the power of AI to create engaging content. So I'm going to let Tom share more of his story and how he got to where he is today and why. But the reason I wanted him on my show is because his work captures two of what I consider my personal core values. And I mean, these are things that I deeply hold to, and which is one, I believe that everyone has a story. They have a message that the world needs to hear. And the way that you tell your story, your experiences, your talents, your skills, your voice, no one else has that. There are people you are called to help, and they can only receive the solution to their problems from you. These are the things that create purpose and value and authentic community where people can thrive. So I can go on about this, but I'm going to stop and say, welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Kia. And we are in total alignment here. As you were, I wanted to just sit back and say, keep talking, Kia. You're on a roll. So I love it.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I'm glad. And I can keep talking, but I'm not going to do that. So Tom, I've known you for a few years and love your emails. And yes, I get a lot of emails and yours are one of the few that I'm like, let me just start reading it. And then I'm at the end. I'm like, okay, I just finished reading the entire email.
Yeah.
So you really are practicing what you preach and what you teach. But tell me how you got to that. Your background is so diverse. How did you get started to where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to almost the beginning. I spent 10 years as a journalist, newspaper reporter. In fact, I was doing it in Northern Virginia, very close to where you are. That work was all about storytelling, true storytelling. Despite what many may say or think about media, at least in the day that I was working on it, it was really about helping tell stories that provided enlightenment and understanding for people, sort of simplifying the complex. And I left the industry and became an entrepreneur and founded a company that actually served the newspaper industry. And that company kind of rode the wave of the first .com revolution. We sold it in the early 2000s, around 2001. And that's when I founded an email marketing company, email marketing software. That software was called MarketVolt. And 2001 was super, super, super early in the email marketing game. Most people had not heard of email marketing, much less tried it. But what it really was all about was my passion, obsession, whatever you might want to call it, for how to connect buyers and sellers. The old media models were all about putting out advertising and messaging and hoping that enough eyeballs see it and engage with it. And that's still a very viable model. But what the internet allowed us to do was to connect directly and converse directly. And email was very intriguing to me in the early 2000s. And for the many years that I ran MarketVolt, 19 years before I sold it, I had a million people tell me, oh, email marketing is dead. They were telling me that in 2002, in 2005, in 2010. But email marketing wasn't dead. We kept at it. And the big focus of our work was how to simplify the difficult, how to make connections with people, human connections, real connections, in ways that were easier and more effective than it used to be. Fast forward to 2019, when I sold the company just before the pandemic. Timing was pretty good there. I had noticed really over many years that when businesses are spinning their wheels and struggling with marketing, they're very quick to chase the shiny tech squirrel. Give me a better tool, give me a better machine, or chase the shiny tactic. Teach me a fancier funnel. Give me the latest, greatest trick to rope them in. And what so many business owners fail to do, especially if their stock and trade is trading their expertise for dollars. What so many of them fail to do is recognize that maybe the reason they're struggling is that the content that they're putting out there, the stories they're telling, are not resonating. And it's especially true for experts who are getting paid for what they know, because they think that if they share something they know, some valuable piece of information that their expert brain knows, that people will fall at their feet. So they write emails like, here's the difference between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA, and nobody cares. No one falls at their feet. No one reads to the bottom of the email. Nobody clicks the button to schedule the consultation. And then they feel frustrated and stuck. And then they go out and chase the shiny tech squirrel and get a new piece of software and think that's going to solve the problem. And that was the premise on which I built Story Power Marketing. In 2019, I launched that. And the promise of Story Power Marketing was to help coaches, consultants, anybody who packages their expertise for sale to serve clients, hire me to transform their content from prospect repelling to client attracting, and to make it easier, to simplify the process so you don't feel like it's a giant slog. So many people have that feeling when it comes to content. And then very shortly after, we launched Implementum, because the experience that I had with my Story Power clients is all of a sudden they were creating better emails and better social posts and better landing pages and better video scripts. And it was all collecting dust in Google Drive folders. And the reason it was collecting dust is they were stumbling over the tech. I know so many business owners, so many leaders who have the presentation deck. They can create a PowerPoint. They have the presentation ready for their webinar, but they can't stumble through the tech to put it all out there. Or they have a Word document ready to turn into a lead magnet, an ebook, but they can't get it out there because the tech gets in their way. So we created Implementum, which is a customized all-in-one marketing automation tool to simplify the difficult, to make it easier to take all this great information, this gift that you want to share with the world, and to simplify the process of getting it out to the world. And that's where we are today, running Story Power Marketing along with the Implementum software and a brand new service that we call Implement Team, so that even if you have the help to create the content and the software to make it easier, even if you feel like, oh, I still need help, I still need people to step in for things I don't want to do or don't have the resources to do, we have a team that can do it for you.
Nice. I love that story. Oh gosh, there's so much to unpack. Let me ask you this. When you started Story Power Marketing, were you actually writing content, or you were teaching how to write content?
Mostly teaching and helping our clients. We do a little bit of copywriting for hire, very little, but mostly it's about helping our clients understand how to make those human connections with the people they serve. So that example I used of the financial planner who wants to say, here's the difference between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA, that person's not making a human connection with their audience. What they're neglecting to do is really understand what's the story for the prospect, for my client, what's the journey that they wish to take. That storytelling begins by keeping the focus on your prospects and clients' emotional journeys. If you understand that, and that's what we teach, that's a starting point for what we teach, then it becomes so much easier to create content that's meaningful and that connects.
Mm-hmm. You know what I love about just the whole premise of what you do is that no one has to be a marketing expert, right?
Amen.
So a lot of
Right.
these business owners, entrepreneurs are, they're busy doing the work that they do, and for them to create content is really like that is enemy number one of good marketing and of marketing period. And so it really is as simple as telling stories, something that we innately do, but we lose it as we grow up because now we have to be all professional and we have to keep up appearances, and who tells stories. But time and again, I produce a lot of content, and when I feel stuck, all I do is I'm like, all right, what's been my recent experiences? What are some a story that I can share, and how can I tie that into something that I want my audience to know? So I think that's the beauty and the simplicity. I also love how this has been like, it's been a common thread in your career, this whole idea of I simply tell stories, and then not just that, like that's what you're like, what I see is that's your zone of genius. That is where, like, your sweet spot, where you're naturally are able to do and talented in. But then you saw the problem that existed. Like, I love that what you said, that the internet afforded everyone a direct communication now, rather than I got to go to a magazine, I got to go to a paper, some mass communication. Now you've got this one-on-one. But what are the challenges? The challenges is making it easy, making it fast. Back, I remember 20, 25 years ago when I was getting into the doing emails and communicating with people. That was it. Like, when you got an email, you dropped everything. You're like, ooh, I got an email.
You've got mail.
Woo! Now it's like, oh my gosh, 7,000 unread messages. I don't even know what, and I'm not even exaggerating. But so now it's like, make it easy and make it like simple to do. But now it's like, help me to manage it so that it actually creates a connection and you're not just another. Like, it's just this, you've naturally created this space for helping people solve these core problems. And I think that's terrific. Tell me, what would you say? Let me see. I have a lot of these. This goodie bag of questions that I want to ask you. So, in all of this success and all this amazing progression, what was the biggest challenge that you had to overcome, and how did you do that?
It's funny. One of the biggest challenges was learning how to delegate. So, and actually, the story I just told is partly my story. So when I first began marketing and selling, I was very prone to be sort of in tell mode. Here's what I do, here's what's cool about it, here's why you should buy it, so on and so forth, as opposed to hear mode. Hear, HEAR, listen, connect. And what's interesting is there's a common thread between the two, because the leader who is unable to delegate sort of has a mindset that everything depends on me. I am standing on high, and I am going to hand down the wisdom, the direction, the activities, the agenda. So too with the marketer or the salesperson who isn't operating in this connection, story-powered human mode. They are much more prone to tell what I sell this kind of gold-plated, platinum-coated widget, and you need it, and here are the 73 things it does better than the bronze coated widget. Who cares? But when you sort of put your ego aside and you begin to aim to make these human connections, where job number one is to discover what makes your people tick, what makes your prospects tick, what's keeping them up at night, what are they fearing, what do they aspire to achieve, so that you can understand fully that journey that they wish to take. Mm-hmm. If you can do that, then all of a sudden the communication process is not one of magically creating something. It's one of assembly, taking those building blocks of what you know and putting it together. Eugene Schwartz, a really famous, accomplished copywriter, wrote a book called Breakthrough Advertising, which many copywriters kind of consider the Bible of the craft. Eugene Schwartz said, copy is not written, copy is assembled. And he meant what he came before me, but it aligns with exactly what I'm saying, that if you do the gathering, the research, the understanding, the listening before the telling, then what you're able to do is take what you've gathered and assemble it in whatever format it may be. The format for a good email, the structure for a good email, is pretty set. Anybody can learn it. There are templates. You can learn it. So too with a social post. So too with a video. So too with whatever marketing format. Putting the building blocks into a familiar structure. But it's the building blocks that are key, and that's about listening. You mentioned a moment ago, Kia, the 7,000 messages. I wrote an email just a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Somebody sent me a picture of a billboard. It's a billboard in New York, and it's for a watch, I think a Timex watch. And it's just a picture of this plain Jane watch. And I forget exactly what the copy was, but it said something to the effect of, if you're tired of being reminded that you have 7,000 unread messages. And it was,
I remember that. It was, you don't have to deal with 7,000 notifications just to find out what time it is. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And here I am with an Apple Watch, and it dings and it buzzes, and it just reminds me how stressful my life is every 45 seconds. and that ad resonated because it tells a story. Mm-hmm. It tells a story that people who wish to escape that rat race, who don't want to feel connected every moment of the day, value. I want to go from stress to relief, from overwhelm to calm, from feeling underwater to I'm not going to worry about it. And whoever created that ad did so with a storyteller's heart, an empathetic heart that clearly understands the target audience. And that's what this is all about. Understanding your target audience, making a human connection with them, creating content with heart.
Mm. So going back to, you said one of your biggest challenges is delegating. And one of the ways that you overcame that was, instead of just telling, which is like in marketing, when you just keep like blah, like info dumping on people, you stop and you listen. Mm-hmm. So what was the thing that helped you to stop and then and assist you with that delegating, so it would free you up to do what you're the best at?
Yeah. And honestly, what made me stop and sort of get there, to a certain extent, it was more reactionary and crisis treatment than being strategic. There was a point when I was running my business where I realized that this isn't sustainable. There were morale issues, there were productivity issues. I was finding myself working longer than I wished. I was on the hamster wheel. And and I have a shelf full of books that talk about these things. And there was sort of a convergence that happened almost simultaneously, where I realized that the thing that makes an effective marketer and salesperson is also the same thing that makes an effective leader. I was being driven in my role as leader to change due to the crises that I just described. I was driven to change from one of those. I when I was first starting out in marketing and sales, I was kind of a numbers guy. The more you send, the better your odds. Knock on every door on every floor. Grind holes in the soles of your shoes. And what I realized, it was more a quantity versus quality game. I came to realize the hard way that it's about making quality and human connections with people. And both things apply, whether you're operating as a business leader or as a marketer and salesperson.
So you really have a talent for seeing what the behind the problem, right? Like there's how the problem presents itself, what it is, whether it's in your own life, I'm in crisis mode, I'm reacting instead of being strategic, or with clients and work that they need to do. They come to you with the way the problem presents, but then it's a skill to look behind and see, well, what is it, the real problem here? What is it you're trying to solve? And that takes talent. Like, just like if you kind of use a metaphor of doctors or traditional medicine today, you'll go in, you present with a problem. I have a headache, my back hurts. And then what do? They give you painkillers, but that doesn't solve the problem. That masks the problem. So the problem itself may be because, I don't know, I'm wearing my hair too tight, or maybe I have something, I'm lifting something, but being able to get behind that problem, and I think is a really key core skill that is really important to have, and makes for good marketers too, right? It makes for identifying.
Yeah, and I thank you for saying that, and a couple of thoughts come to mind as you say that. I think my journalism training really, really helps, because when you're a reporter, there is the way the story is presented to you. So you're talking to people, politicians or business people or whatever, who have agendas. So you have to look behind the surface of the story to find the real meaning in the story. And your job is to distill the meaning and present it in as simple a way as possible. And that, I think, is something that you seem to have identified as a skill of mine. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Stories are the way. Like that's the medium. Like you can be very didactic about it and teach, or you can just tell stories, and that really presents it presents the information in different perspectives that it wouldn't otherwise. Very natural.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other thing I would say to that, building on the idea that this grew out of practice and training, is that the skills that you're describing, the skills that I'm describing to create better content, these are not, it's not about God-given gifts. It is about developing habits and practices that anyone can learn and anyone can master. So this idea of gathering the building blocks, anyone can do that. I'm not saying that this is an easy button thing. I'm saying you have to have conversations with people. You have to record and record meetings and go through the transcript, or ask AI to help you look at the key points in a transcript. You have to go and visit discussion forums and so forth. You had Ben Settle on on your podcast recently, and I learned something really valuable from Ben years ago. He told a story about being hired to write about a weight loss product, and the weight loss product, very commoditized space. And what Ben did is he went into online forums where the target market resided, women of a certain age and a certain weight, and he listened. He read what they were saying. He paid attention to the conversations. He looked for the topics that were bubbling up, that had more and more comments and lots of emotion, the feelings. And what he stumbled upon, and stumbled isn't a fair word, because he was prospecting, he was working it. And what he found and dug up was this discussion where a woman who was 300 plus pounds but had lost 50 was posting about the fact that when she lost the weight, her so-called friends, began to backbite and make nasty comments about how she dressed and her hair and so forth. And what she realized is that, the quest that she was on was all about proving everybody wrong. It was almost like a vengeance quest, and everybody in this community was like, "Yeah, I experienced the same thing." And so he wrote a sales letter that was all from the perspective of, stick it to those people who don't believe in you. Get this product, lose the weight, you'll show them, those people, and there's no way he could have framed up that story without listening to the people he was trying to reach. Mm-hmm. Once he listened, he had the building blocks. And yes, Ben Zettel is very talented, and there are God-given gifts that all of us have. But it really was more an act of craft versus magic. And that's something that people really, really, really need to understand, because all of us have sat in front of a blank screen once upon a time. Now what? And you're sitting there feeling like, oh, I need the magic to flow. I hope the muse comes and visits. And that's not what it's about. It's about putting in the work, following the steps, learning the systems, gathering the building blocks. And if you do that, it's not that every single day will be, easy beyond your wildest dreams, but most days are going to be way easier than sitting in front of a blank screen once upon a time, now what, waiting for the muse to strike.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. There's a practical side to telling your story in a way that connects with people within the context of your marketing or within whatever context there is. And yeah, you got to go out and do the work. But I also find there's a mindset side to it, where when I work with my clients, they don't believe that they have a story worth telling, or they think that it's not that interesting. Like, what am I? I'm kind of regular guy or regular guy. And then they sort of try to fabricate stories, or they go to AI and they create these like fluff stories. And so, but it's starting with believing that what the story you're sharing now, whether you're doing the market research, you're retelling, or you're telling of your own, that is worth telling, and just believe that, and then you'll improve. I go back to some of my emails and stories from 10 years ago, and I'm like, oh, right, let me fix this up a little bit. But if I didn't make that step, I wouldn't have get to where I am now, where, telling stories and helping people feel inspired and connected just feels natural and enjoyable for me to do. Yeah. So let me ask you, I'm going to keep asking these sort of behind the scenes questions, because I think those are the juicy questions. So what continues to test your resolve? continues to be a challenge for you?
Wow, that's a great question. I think um, I think balancing the the things that I love to do versus the things that I need to do to scale my business. That's an ongoing challenge for me. So I don't want to say that and set up this idea that in order to scale a business, you have to spend time doing things you hate doing. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, for example, I love to write. It's comfortable for me. I have fun doing it. Not again because I'm some God-given, genius of storytelling. I've learned to do it. I've learned to make it fun and comfortable, and I love to do it. And I could be happy spending many hours a day doing that. But I'm also the CEO of really two companies, Story Power Marketing and Implementum. And there is work that I need to do and systems that I need to build. And so staying focused on it's very easy for me to fall into the weeds of working in my business as opposed to working on my business.
Sure.
That's an ongoing challenge.
Yeah, and I think that's insightful and instructive because people who have their own businesses, it is the battle of what do I love to do versus what I have to do. And there's an element of yes, there's always going to be days you're going to have to do things that you'd rather not be doing, but you got to do it. You're grown up, you own a business, you got to do these things. But right. Closing that gap between the love to do's and the things that you have to do that's kind of the quest, right? Of as you mature in your business. Yeah. And it's entirely possible. So I'm going to ask you this last question, and then there'll be a couple of kind of closing questions. Let me ask you this. It might hurt your mind a little bit. I'm going to ask it because I think for me, that's what's important, to identify those things and close. And how do you close that gap? Because we can only hustle so much. Nobody likes having eternal hustle. But so here's it. So if you could be free from the day to day of the work that you are currently doing, there was zero loss of quality in your work, in your relationships, and in your finances, what would you do with your time?
That first of all, that doesn't make my brain explode. I love the question. You haven't hurt me in asking it. I would probably go to a handful of clients who really could benefit from having me write some emails for them and have some fun writing some emails for a handful of clients, and where the money is not the issue. And in many ways, that's where I'm going. The thing that when we talk about working in the business and working on the business, all this work that I'm doing to scale my business, training my operations director to do many of the things that I already do, and to delegate and to manage my teams, and take that off my plate. All of the work that I'm doing in lieu of spending some time in the things I love to do and could easily, sink into doing all the time, is going to circle its way back to allowing me to do those things that I love to do. So I am in this business, and I get up in the morning and write an email to my list every single morning because I love to do it. A lot of people coach, get ahead of your emails and write, a month's worth the first week of the month, and then you don't have to worry about it. And I love to wake up in the morning, pour myself a cup of French roast, pet my crazy doodle moose, and sit down and write an email. And that there's a role for that. That's one of the things I don't ever give up. I do that much every morning. I love doing that. And I would love doing that 3 times over, 4 times over every single day if all the other stuff was taken care of.
That's beautiful. You just continue to tell stories, which I think is really what, has made the world go around. All right. I have a question, 5-second answer. So real brief. And then
that's one of my challenges, by the way.
Yes, everything is the same.
Yeah. Oh, that one hurt 5 seconds.
and then once you well, let me just add to this. So 5 to 10-second answer. What advice would you give to your younger self?
To be less strident and angry, and to have more grace. To empathize, understand where others are coming from before you judge them.
That's good. I'm sure there's lots of captivating stories behind that, but
I'm not going to tell them though.
Okay. I think that's good advice. So Tom, this has been so much fun. It's been, you've shared teaching on how to write marketing content the best way. And we've also kind of gotten back into your story and how you got to where you are. So how do people stay connected with you? What's the best way?
Yeah, there are a few ways to do it. Number one, you can look me up on LinkedIn. My last name is spelled Ruwitch, and there is only one Tom Ruwitch on LinkedIn and Facebook. So if you spell it right, you should be able to find me. You also can find me on storypowermarketing.com. That's where you can sign up for my week daily emails where I practice what I preach, share captivating and fun stories. You'll learn about my wife, Melissa, my crazy doodle Moose, my twins, Jake and Maddie, my robot named B9, ? And we have fun every morning in those emails. You also can check out free resources on that website. I also have a little gift that I'd like to share with everybody on the call. And that all you have to do, this one's easy to remember, go to yourgiftfromtom.com, And if you go to that page, you just could get a copy of an ebook that's called 9 Secrets to Create Client Attracting Content, and kind of lays out in more detail than I shared here today how to do it, how to make it easy, how to make it fun, how to make it sustainable, so you're not sitting in front of that blank screen wondering what next. And oh, by the way, as much as I love AI and I use it a lot, simply using that AI easy button to create content is the quickest and easiest way to become a needle in that haystack of sameness. If you want to stand out, you have to show up as you. You have to show up with your voice. You have to show up with your heart, and you have to do the market research. So here I am turning a 5-second thing into a 5-minute thing. Can I tell one quick story?
Go for it.
I think it's really important. So there's a brilliant marketing guy named Jeff Walker. Jeff Walker created a thing called the product launch formula, where he teaches people how to launch products. And so product launches and events around product launches and so forth, this is his specialty. And just a couple of years ago, he was in process of relaunching his product launch formula and relaunching some events to promote it. And he did a video on YouTube where he talked about the fact that when he does a launch, when he hosts an event, it would be very easy for him to say, I know my market. I know what they need. I know what they feel. And I'm just going to create my content accordingly. He said, every time we do one of these, create a video for a new thing, we start as if we're starting from scratch. I mean, we don't we don't rebuild everything, but we go out and spend some time listening to the market. What are they saying now? What's their concern today? Because what your market is feeling today is not exactly necessarily the same as yesterday or last month, or certainly last year. And so one of the greatest in the world is in the mode of, I am constantly in the business of listening, paying attention, and gathering new building blocks for assembling content. And I share that story in the context of the AI, because AI is constantly going to give you lowest common denominator information, draw from yesterday's news, draw from the news that made the most noise and had the most volume, which is not necessarily the news that's truest and most meaningful. You have to connect your ears and your heart to your audience and constantly do it. And there are ways to do it systematically and easily, but you have to do it. So that's my little AI speech.
I think that's a big deal. Like, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we get content from our clients, and I can tell when it's AI
instantly, right?
It ain't pretty. And it ain't pretty. And so I would really encourage the listeners to subscribe, to go in so they get your daily emails, because just reading seeing how you're doing it can be instructive enough for them to follow the same pattern that they see in terms of truly making that connection, not relying on AI. And to go deeper, to learn the framework. You're an incredible teacher. I've seen the way you teach and you create the frameworks for how to create compelling content, and they're good. They're simple. They're easy to use. Like, that's just what you've been doing your whole life. Yeah. So I would highly recommend that if you're anything into, even if you're just posting content for yourself, you're not trying to sell anything, go find this information, because it just makes you a more interesting person.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
Yes, of course. So yourgiftfromtom.com/Kia, get that, sign up for the emails, and let me know what you find. And if you have any comments or questions, shoot me an email or leave a comment. Thank you so much, Tom. This was so fun, so helpful, and really appreciate the information that you shared.
Thank you, Kia. Really had fun.
Same. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Again, my name is Kia Arian, reminding you once again that your skills, your talents have been given to you for a reason. There are people who stand to benefit from what you offer, and there are others who you are not called to help. Focus on the former group. They're waiting for you.
If you enjoyed this broadcast, subscribe to the show, connect with Kia on LinkedIn, and let her know what inspired you. This broadcast was brought to you by Zyne, a marketing and brand development agency that helps attorneys, entrepreneurs, and professional service providers create raving clients who love them, stay with them, and tell others about them. Visit ZyneMarketing.com/newsletter to sign up and receive the Breathe Life newsletter, a print publication of Zyne.